Hey everybody, it's Mike with 4B's Honey. We're at an out yard today checking on some of our nukes. I'll show you these nucleus colonies. You can see that Mona's not with me today. So I'm doing this by myself again. Doing my own videographer. Y'all know how that goes. But these are my babies. These are little splits that I made back in the fall, early in the fall, and we've grown them. Basically, we pulled out 3 frames, if you guys have watched that video, and it started out with 1 box, and now we've grown them to three boxes, which is ideal for overwintering here where we are. And today I'm just going to do a quick check and make sure that we still have a queen, and that or evidence of a queen, that she's still laying. Look for the signs of disease. Make sure that they have plenty of food in these boxes. So I'm just kind of hefting them to see how they feel. Weight-wise, that one's pretty heavy. This one may have some brood in it. It just feels different. So I'm gonna pull a frame or so out of this one. Grab a frame stand here. I hope you guys are gonna be able to see what I'm doing. This isn't ideal. You may have to relocate your camera here. It's a wall frame. Basically, it's got food on it. That's what we want to see. Not a ton of bees, but enough. I'm just going to dig through a couple of these real quick. Pull this center frame out and just see what's happening on it. So it's getting down into fall, and we just want to make sure that these girls are going to have enough food to make it through the winter. So that's been backfilled with nectar on it. We also, we've treated for mites already. Varroa counts are very low in these boxes, especially with the brood break. Varroa tends to want to be on baby bees. So when we broke the brood cycle and put in a new queen, that tends to help with breaking that Varroa cycle. So brood in the top box, it's a little bit light. I'd like to see this top box completely full of food for the winter, but what's that song? We don't always get what we want. This is probably one of the last. It's October 21st today. Temps are nearly in the 80s here where I am. It's a very high 70s, nearly 80 degrees. Gives you some ooey gooey goodness. See that honey running? Tore a cell open there. Yeah, it's nearly 80 degrees. The bees are still out trying to forage, but the problem is we've had several frosts. So there was a big field of goldenrod here right behind these hives that they've really fed up well on. But now that has passed. So we're going to, like I say, we just created these hives in the fall. So we're going to make sure that there's enough food in here and enough brood in here to get these girls to February or March. Not much going on in that box, so we're going to feed these pretty heavily. The feed that we're going to be feeding today is a sugar syrup that mimics fall nectar. So what I mean by that is fall nectars, as far as like asters, and there's plenty of asters still blooming down here. As far as like asters, goldenrod, ironweed, that kind of thing, is not like thistle that you have in the summertime. Thistle is very wet, very high in moisture content, but in the fall, I guess the good Lord knows what he's doing. So to give the girls less work to do, that nectar is already much drier than others. So it's a much heavier, thicker nectar. So they don't have to dehydrate it as much. And when I say dehydrate it, it has to be 18% moisture content, else it'll mold in the hive. So you have to be careful that you're not giving them something that they really got to dehydrate. I hope you guys can see that pollen in there. So it looks really nice. That's what we want to see. Usually they put pollen close to the babies. I think I've told you guys that more than one time. So we should hopefully see some brood here. There's a lot more bees in this bottom box. They're not real happy now. I just tilted that frame over. So here's some brood and eggs. So you can see that cardboard stuff is brood. And there's eggs in those cells, if you can see to the bottom of it. I'm happy with just buttoning these girls up, feeding them nice and heavy. And like I say, this is probably the last inspection for the year here, as far as going deep within this hive. It's going to start getting colder, and I typically don't like to open the hives once it's below around 60 degrees. It just gets, you have such a chance of chilling your brood and killing babies. So once they get into cluster, I like to just leave them alone. So we're going to put a feeder back on top here. I'll show you this feeder and explain this to you. This is a feeder, and don't say, ooh, he feeds his bees. Well, if you're, I bet y'all feed your cows and your dogs too. If there's enough forage for them in the summertime and springtime, then I don't feed them. But in the fall, there's not enough forage, and these are babies. So they don't have the numbers, so we gotta feed them. So I promise you, my honey is real honey. So this will float, and this is the feeder. So I'm just gonna pump some sugar syrup in there, and these will float, and that keeps the bees from drowning. So I'm gonna start the side by side. I'll show you my little setup over here. So here's my setup over here. I got a tank sprayer on the back of my side by side, and this is full of 2-to-1 sugar syrup. And when I say 2-to-1, that means there's twice as much sugar as there are water. So every 25 pounds of sugar gets 1.5 gallons of water mixed in it, and that's 2-to-1 sugar syrup. In the spring, we do 1-to-1 sugar syrup, which means for every gallon of water, we add, so a gallon of water weighs 8.8 pounds. So for every gallon of water, we add 8.8 pounds of sugar to it as well. And that encourages that really thin syrup like that. I'm gonna make some noise, maybe. That really thin syrup encourages the queens to lay eggs and tells them that there's a nectar flow going on. But this time of year, we're going to add some thick syrup, and I'll show you how thick it is. This works really well. I have a bad back from being old, I guess, and so I just pump about 1 gallon of sugar syrup in here, and we'll call that good enough. So this will probably be the last feeding for these girls. The next time I look at them will be in November, and I won't go into the hive, but I will take this feeder off, and I will put an emergency feeder on top. And the emergency feeder, and I'll show you that when we get to it, it's going to have just some hard candy that I make, and I'll show you guys my recipe and all that stuff here soon, because they're going to be making some up for these babies and building some emergency feeders. So we'll put a little winter pollen patty in there to give them a little protein for the winter. So this sugar syrup and honey that they've gathered through the year is carbohydrates, and they also need a protein to get them through the winter. So we will feed them a winter-based pollen patty, and I'll show you that. They smell really good. I haven't never tasted one, but they've got a little honey mixed in with them. Kind of yeasty smelling, like a yeast roll. But I'll show you those when we get to them. It's going to be in a couple weeks. We're going to still continue to fatten the girls up here with this 2-to-1 sugar syrup. So anyway, I just thought y'all might want to see what I was doing. And beautiful, beautiful day in October. Can't beat it. If you haven't already, visit our page, 4 Bees Honey Farm. Check us out online. We're getting ready to hit a couple markets here. Model City Antique and Flea is coming up Halloween weekend. So I'll sell some beautiful honey and some candles and some lotions and some lip balms, and get to meet a lot of nice folks. You guys take care.